Welcome to another episode of TPM Ridge, the podcast where we bring in industry leaders in technical program management to share their insights, experiences, and the lessons they've learned on the front lines of the TPM movement. I'm your host, Doran Katz, and each week we dive in deep into the methodologies, mindsets, and tools that will empower you to drive excellence in technical program management. Whether you're new to TPM or looking to take your skills to the next level, this podcast is your go-to resource for transforming TPM principles into real-world success. Today we have Fabrice Bernhard, one of the founders of the consulting company Thedo and a co-author of the book, The Lean Tech Manifesto. Welcome to the show. Along with myself, we have one of the directors of the European chapter, Michael Gotts. Welcome. And welcome to you, Fabrice.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Great. Well, let's start off first by telling the audience a bit about yourself, Fabrice.
So my name is Fabrice Bernhard. You mentioned it. I'm the tech co-founder of Thedo. Thedo is a tech consultancy that we've grown from about 10 people in 2013 to now 700 in 2023. And so we specialize in building transformational tech products for clients all over the world in every sector, really we work for scale-ups and we work for corporates.
Great. Yeah. And of course, you also have a book that just came out. I got my copy online on Apple Books, and I know it's available on Amazon and different channels as well. The Lean Tech Manifesto. We all know about the Agile Manifesto, but what is the Lean Tech Manifesto?
Well, it really started because we're a big moment in our entrepreneurial life for Benoit, my co-founder, and I was when we really got to understand Agile. And so ever since we've been big fans of the Agile Manifesto because we really think it captures so well what Agile is about, what being an Agile team is about. And it was very transformative for us to adopt Agile within the teams because we were, immediately delivering so much better outcomes, so much faster. And when I say better outcomes, it was really like, products that were better adopted, generating more revenue for our clients, and all that in an environment where the teams were really feeling empowered because they were building the product with the client, with the business, coming up with ingenious solutions to, create more value much faster. So that was very transformational for us. And that was also transformation for our clients, so that fueled very fast growth. And very soon we faced two new challenges. So one was leading much bigger projects, and kind of similar, leading our own, very fast growth. And that's when we realized that the answers to maintaining an agile culture on large projects or, on a fast scaling company, we couldn't find them in the Agile Manifesto. And so 10 years later, we've been through a journey of growth. We've learned a lot from studying leading tech companies and also from, studying lean thinking. And so we wanted to share these learnings in a way that we would have liked to get them back then, which is in this kind of manifesto way where it's like principles that you can look at whenever you have to make decisions.
That's great. Thanks. And, diving in a bit into what you have in your book, in your manifesto, you have a couple of values that are quite interesting. You mention in the book value for the customer over customer collaboration and contract negotiation, a tech-enabled network of teams over individuals and interactions over processes and tools, the right first time and just in time over working software, over comprehensive documentation, and building a learning organization over responding to change over following the plan. Tell us a little bit about that. What do they mean? How did you come up with those values?
Yeah, so I mean, the idea is, and it kind of started, really around the fact that we love the Agile Manifesto, and we were having this debate. And I was on the side of defending the Agile Manifesto, and I was facing Lean Sensei, Lean expert Mike Bade, who's like demonstrating to me that the Agile Manifesto was not something you could use at scale. And I took the challenge and I said, okay, fine, I'm going to rewrite it in a way that is very close to its initial spirits, like, same purpose, same kind of spirit, and with principles that you won't be able to say they're not scalable. With principles that will apply in large companies. And yeah, and then we leveraged, as I said, a journey into lean thinking. So by then we had already quite a lot of experience in lean thinking, so I think we understood it well enough. We had, of course, been watching the best tech companies trying to apply a lot of the tech innovation within our own company. And so combining that, I came up we came up, it's like, of course, a very collaborative effort between Benoit, me, and other experts of these kind of issues. And we came up, and I don't know, I can give you an example. I think one of the when I loved the first one. So first we reordered the Agile Manifesto. So that's already like one big choice, which makes total sense when you're a lean practitioner, because this idea that the word customer comes only in third place, that was not okay. So we put the word customer back in first place, and we took this agile value, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And it makes so much sense. I mean, contract negotiation is really like the thing you want to avoid at all costs. And customer collaboration, and we lived it really strongly. If you do it in the agile team, so the archetype is the customer is the product owner within the team. And this is really like amazing. Like, this is when the engineers and the business experts really work together closely and iterate and create amazing products. But now, if you think, okay, how do I scale that? Well, if you have like 20 teams, and if in front of you it's not like one, very well inspired customer, but actually a large organization with multiple stakeholders, then you can't. Then this principle doesn't apply anymore. You can't tell teams, well, just collaborate with the customer, because who collaborates with who and how do we collaborate directly? But then you look in lean thinking, and lean thinking, the first principle is value for the customer. And this, and it's a guiding principle, and it comes with a lot of body of knowledge behind it. But before we even go into what does it mean, value for the customer, we can already like see that yes, this makes sense. I can have a very large organization, and I can, as a leader of that organization, or as a leadership team of the organization, work hard on how do I make value for the customer a North Star for that organization. So how do I clarify it? How do I communicate it? How do I embed it in the organization? How do I design my organization to make sure that it's easier for teams to know how to contribute to that value for the customer? Very popular concept at the moment, team topology. How do I, design the topology of my organization so that teams see better how they can contribute to the value? Well, this all makes sense. It makes sense at scale. I think it's like, same purpose as Agile, which is how do I make sure I think about what I can do best for the customer, and also how do I make sure it's done in a way that can empower teams, and so that's how we came up with that value, and we did the same exercise 4 times, and we probably don't have time to go all the way all through all of them, but yes, that's a good example of the thing we did. And then of course in the book we have a bit of space to actually go into what does it mean to implement value for the customer in your organization, and then we give examples on things you can do to clarify value, to like communicate it, etc., etc.
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, it's really important that you have customer first, as you mentioned in the manifesto, the Agile Manifesto. It isn't as quite prominent in that. Yeah, but I was definitely curious about at least one example of one company, and I guess what the feedback was initially when you kind of went through that that round, I guess, into seeing how to apply your manifesto in practice.
So how we did, I mean, it's of course in hindsight we can give some kind of order. In reality, it was probably not that well. It was not that chronological. But I think starting our first lean experience and our very first lean anecdote is we have this lean sensei come to our office, and typically very lean sensei like. saying, no, I'm not going to the meeting room. I want to walk around the office. I want to go on the Gemba. I want to go, Gemba is this Japanese word for where things happen. So we go on the Gemba and we show him a bit how teams work. And he asks, okay, how do you know if your customers are happy? And we say, oh, actually, we've recently started asking them every week how they feel about the speed and the quality of the collaboration. That's amazing, but where can I see it? We have this aha moment. We're like, wow, we've got all these indicators. We have these post-its on the wall. We have the burnout chart. We have all these things, but actually, the customer satisfaction that we collected every week, we hadn't even thought about printing it and putting it on the wall. And so we're like, oh wow, this is so true. So we start printing it right away, and all of a sudden the teams were really empowered on that satisfaction results, which when we think of it, before that we were actually collecting that data and looking at it in our kind of like director's office. All of a sudden the teams were in charge of printing it and looking at it and problem solving it if it was below standard. And that completely changed the company. So I would say this is a typical example of something we started, which is say, okay, how do I make sure teams are empowered and value for the customer? Well, guess what? They can actually have access to the customer satisfaction. That's a learning goals example that works in our case. And I would say the more generic answer is, which we implemented, but much later, is having an obeya, so really like basically taking up a wall pre-COVID, taking up a wall and really taking the time to design what you communicate on that wall, to make sure that people that come across that wall understand what you're aiming for in terms of value for the customer, what are the challenges that we're currently facing, what are the challenges that we're currently working on. So these kind of things that really like help communicate value and many other things.
How do you measure that the individual in the organization who, like, let's make it tangible, like a platform engineer in a software company, how can he relate back to the customer satisfaction score? Because this is something from this individual perspective, like very far away from him, where it's measured and the people are working on it and communicating the results.
Yeah, well, this is you're asking the difficult question right now. Michael, thanks for it. It's so first, imagine you have a Scrum team. You measure, the customer satisfaction, for example, every week. First, the customer satisfaction is not the end customer. I mean, this is one idea, which is you probably need to measure the user satisfaction, and you probably need to measure the revenue. You probably need to measure the churn, and measure the product owner satisfaction. So these are all like very useful indicators. The platform team, this is a typical good example, and I think it's a hard one, and it depends. It's not an easy answer, but I like the model of Marty Kagan in Empowered, where he says it depends if the platform team is really creating an API product, really creating a product that is self-service for example, development teams, then the customer is the development team. So it's about making sure they actually measure satisfaction from the developers. I think it's hard to do in practice, Michael, because asking your colleagues across the corridor how they feel about you and receiving a bad feedback requires, I think, strong help from leadership and strong focus on learning, because it will be weirdly forgotten, I think, often in normal organizations. And another thing that Marty Kagan suggests is if actually the platform team is not really building like a standalone product, but working to enable another team, why not actually work on the same KPI, which would encourage collaboration, because you could argue, oh wow, I don't know, end users satisfaction's gone down, and because I'm tracking it as a platform team, well, I'm going to problem solve it with the dev team. So that's another option. That's not one I've actually seen often, but I think it's an interesting one.
And you mentioned like a follow-up question, like you like a little bit go deeper into like which role leadership, like on all levels, plays in the successful implementation of your manifesto?
Yeah, well, this is typically this is a great example. Because you gave an example that's difficult but typical. So a typical problem. So if you want to look at value, very regularly, we do it every week. You need to be prepared to see values. Not every week, fortunately, but it's not going to be. And when whatever, by the way, whatever level you add, for example, we have very high satisfaction levels, so we've put the standard very high. So if it's below very high, then we also consider that as bad news. So that's where you need to create a culture in the company of welcoming problems. So really making sure that if something if the indicator is negative, there's no reason to panic, no reason to be negative, definitely not blame anyone. So really, as a leadership team, show enthusiasm for the problem. So really reframe the way you look at the problems as learning opportunities, stuff that were there anyway, whether you see them or not, but seeing them is actually good news because now you can learn from them. So that's a good, exercise from the leadership team, but that's key, and it can really transform the whole organization because all of a sudden it becomes okay to look at problems. It becomes and it really I think helps the organization read and circulate information much better. That's one thing, and then of course the other thing is it's also about being very strict on not showing the problems. So then the bad behavior is hiding problems. So typically, in that example, imagine a platform team is really struggling to deliver the right platform to a dev team, so they get negative scores, and they don't really see how to deal with them, so they kind of forget to ask. Well, this is where you need to both be quite strict about the fact that not asking is not an option, and then also being very helpful on the problem solving part, because this is also something if you know Lean culture, which we call the unknown chain, which is you can't ask the team on the ground to look at problems and not offer them help. So you really need to make sure that escalation happens quickly so that they feel, supported in facing the problems.
Diamond chain is that, in the factories in Toyota, right? Where you pull down the
Yeah.
chain.
And by the way, because I'm clearly using my own lingo here. So the unknown cord is this concept of any worker on the Toyota factory line can pull the unknown cord and stop the factory line, and then some people, then the team leader runs to that person to help them. And what I mean by unknown chain is actually the idea that if the team leader runs to the person and can't find a solution, then the group leader arrives. And then, the line leader arrives and then, calls the engineers and so you can, I've not seen it myself, but, I've heard of situations where you start having like this crowd of 15 people that have, escalated very high, trying to address a problem, getting, the best minds on the shop floor until the problem is solved. And typically, love your example, Michael, your platform team struggling to deliver something good. Well, with enough energy and enough experience and enough seniority, we're going to be able to problem solve it together.
Great. Yes. Thank you for that. And I was actually curious, a couple of the other manifesto values that you had on there. So, a tech-enabled network of teams. What does that mean?
Yeah. So that's the one that I found the most difficult to find and the most interesting. Because I would say for the three others, I basically took the Agile Manifesto, and clearly Agile has strong inspiration from Lean thinking, and then looked at what Lean thinking would say about this, and then find the Lean thinking equivalent. For that one, which is how do I scale this idea of teams that are so empowered that everything works through individuals and interactions, and how do you avoid over processes and tools? So how do you avoid that just becoming processes and tools? And this Lean is not giving you incredible answers. It's and on the other hand, you've got these organizations so I was looking at the most agile organization I could find in the world. You have these crazy organizations which are completely self-organized at very large scale. And I was wondering, what do these very large self-organized things do to make it work? And by studying a few of them, I kind of started seeing this pattern, which was Well, yes, you have teams that are empowered. So Buurtzorg, for example, is very famous in Europe. It's this healthcare company that scaled to like 15,000 nurses, very self-organized. When you like dig into their story, you realize they also have this amazing IT that, really reduces friction, but also really empowers them because it gives every kind of team of nurses the exact, KPIs they need to know what are we doing, are we going okay? Do we have enough profitability? So they can like, react and self-organize and problem solve. And then I looked at the Linux story and I saw something similar, which was, well, this like very self-organized organization, the Linux kernel development team, because it's this huge open source project. So people come there, they contribute for fun. But if you put like horrible processes, they're just going to run away. So how do you maintain this like fun aspect? Well, if you look at the story, you see there's like two key things, which is like one, really designing the organization in a modular way, but then creating this technology that like kind of seamlessly distributes the work between these modules and then re-merges it together. And I thought, wow, this is about, and then I saw it everywhere. Typically the Amazon API mandate is kind of an equivalent, etc. So that's why, I was like, okay, it's teams that, work in a distributed way as a network, and that's thanks to technology. That which wouldn't be possible without technology, without internet, without, this ability to like, connect with all in real time. And so the best term I came up with to describe this is tech-enabled network of teams.
And one thing that you also like mentioned in the book is like produce higher quality with right first time. That there are four like very interesting concepts. So I leave it up to you what you want to expose from your book. So like how do they like really help organizations in practice? And could you elaborate like on one that would be like interesting to the
I mean the one that is probably the most recent for us, so the most exciting one, probably also one of the most innovative one in software is what we call Dantotsu, which is kind of our translation of this amazing book. I mean, amazing. I'm not recommending everyone to read it. But for us, it was amazing, called the Dantotsu to Take a Radical Way for Quality, or something similar, which is a book written by Sanao Nomura, who was in charge of 4 or 5 factories, I think. In charge of like really increasing the quality, and he describes how he did it. And it was the first time that we found, wow, this material of someone who had gone through the journey and really like gave you the operational method he used on the ground. It's in factories creating forklifts, so you might think, oh, it's very far from software. But what is amazing is when you see like the complete implementation, you can see so many parallels. And so we've tried to like take as many of the good ideas we could find in this book back to our own company. And so we've reused the name Dantotsu to describe this discipline that now we try to really implement, of measuring defects on every project in a very instruction in a very specific way, which is very interesting, which is okay, we're going to classify them by stages of detection. So we're going to say, okay, was it detected in production? Was it detected in QA? Was it detected by your teammates or continuous integration, or was it detected by yourself? And so that allows to like really, say, okay, now as a management objective together, we're going to try to reduce as many of the defects in production, but we're going to try to increase as much as possible the defects that are detected by continuous integration or by the person themselves. Yeah, and it's very interesting because of course the best way to like reduce the number of bugs is to measure them badly. So this Dantotsu method says no, we're gonna increase the number of detected defects, but we're gonna do a shift left approach and really work hard on detecting them earlier. So that's one idea, and then of course the way to like slowly push it more and more to the left is to have this systematic analysis of your defects, which requires discipline. But once you get there, is fascinating because all these defects are such incredible learning opportunities. Again, amazing opportunities also bring more senior people, team leader, group leader, engineering manager, and have the conversations that I think that really matter, because I think that's one of the things that you learn when you study lean thinking is the best place to learn. I mean, you could learn from so many places, but probably the most effective one is from defects because they're real problems. No one can argue against that. They're very close to your work. Yeah, and they most of the time they will highlight kind of misconception or knowledge gap that is worth looking into.
Join us this October 4th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the second annual TPM Summit in Mountain View, California at the Computer History Museum, or via livestream. This year, there will be 2 tracks delving into the functional aspects of being a TPM. There'll be plenty of time for networking, visiting our exhibitor hall, or even meeting with our career coaches one-on-one. We're excited to continue this learning journey with our incredible TPM community and hope to see you there.
I know a lot of our audiences, including myself, worked at Amazon. We know about correction of errors, or COEs as you call them. The ability to sort of take a pause and actually dive deep into the error to actually understand why it's happening, right? The 5 whys and all of that as well, which is an important aspect of improving, right?
Well, I'm so glad to know that Amazon is doing something for that. Amazon is definitely one of the examples we use a lot in the book. It's such a lean company in a sense, so it's a very interesting mix of lean and tech. Therefore, good example for a lean tech book.
Yeah, and talking about defects. So in your book, you also talk about the term judoka, right? Which is the approach to stopping defects early as well, right? So that was part of what you're talking about earlier, I guess, so that bridge.
Yeah. So judoka is the Japanese, term that is used by usually in the lean community, which we prefer to translate by right first time, to not separate people with Japanese terms. But yeah, I mean this idea that you should stop at defects and analyze them, which is kind of like no. Now instead we use more the dental term for that. But there's also the very interesting idea in software engineering, which is say, okay, where can I detect the defects, or what are all the detection mechanisms I can use? And this is something that the software industry has been looking at for years now, mostly in especially in the DevOps community. And and it's interesting to think about it, not in just what I love about studying lean thinking is you kind of get this like deeper level of understanding of things that you've seen already. So typically you can see everything we learn in DevOps and kind of get this like a deeper level of understanding, shift left of quality and these kind of things.
Yeah, thanks. And finally, a bit left field. I know Michael thinking about this as well, because in your book you started talking about tennis. Wondering if you're a tennis fan, because you kind of had that analogy, I guess, or that bridge about tennis, and I think it was Roland Garros, right? We're talking about.
Yeah, no, actually, yes, this is really our origin story, but it all started because of a very early game between Federer and Nadal, which was actually in Dubai, I think, which is our entrepreneurial journey with Benoit started. So this is and indeed Roland Garros was this like tournament where they would meet again and again, and unfortunately for both Benoit and I, because we're Federer fans, when Nadal won most of the encounters.
Yeah, it was a pity to see that that the German guy like brought out Nadal in the first round a few days ago. So
Read about
Yeah,
that. Yeah, I
well,
was going to
new
ask
generation.
which one of you was Federer, which one of you was Nadal in the partnership here.
Yeah, we've been working together now for 17 years, and we both support Federer, and we have, of course, infinite respect for Nadal.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I maybe have one last thought on or a question to you, Fabrice, on technology and the evolutions that we saw in the last 10 years. So we had like this cloud move. We had like now the fuss on AI and where it's going in 2023, 24. And like, how did it influence like on the Lean Tech Manifesto and what you have written, the work that you're doing? Like, how much do you pay attention to it, or is it just like going through it because it is the key to success?
No, of course. I mean, first, I'm a technologist. I love technology and I love innovation. But to your point, what I find very interesting is by writing this book, I identify this frame of enabling distributed collaboration through technology. And all of a sudden, a lot of these things made sense. So, internet, email, all of a sudden you can like really communicate documents so quickly. And then, SaaS software, all of a sudden you can actually real-time collaborate in the same documents. Cloud is this amazing thing. So instead of having to instead of having to negotiate with an infrastructure team, can you please anticipate that I will need a server in 3 days and I need to rack it, you need to order it, etc. So this whole supply chain management that you need to think about as a dev, also it's API'd, which is incredible. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, oh wow, but in AI, is AI also a collaboration enabling technology? And actually the best use cases we're starting to have within our company are very much around that. How can I, I'm this team, I'm autonomous. But if I'm too autonomous, then I'm not going to leverage any of the existing knowledge of, the other teams. That was like the current situation. So how do you make sure, so through management, etc., people reuse other team knowledge? And all of a sudden you have AI that can actually push and say, hey, you're working on this function. Guess what? I've searched through our database of code of everything we've written in the last 10 years. Then there's 3 other people that wrote similar functions. Which gives you this amazing ability of saying, okay, maybe I could like look at what they've done, maybe I could just ask them, So this is typically something we've implemented, and I find this is this amazing ability to like, do what Lean does well, which is say, okay, we're gonna have standards and people are gonna learn from the standards, but in reality, it's hard. It takes a lot of time to get people through training, etc. And AI could really like, shortcut these kind of things and further enable like knowledge transfer and collaboration around these things.
Yeah, this is definitely an exciting frontier. It's a pivotal moment, I guess, for technology and in history. I guess as we're kind of moving to this sort of stage of AI and the expansion of that, the cloud and all that. So it's definitely exciting. And as we wrap things up, I want to really thank you for joining us, Bernhard. Would you perhaps, if there's anything you wanted to plug, we definitely will put your link up for your book on Amazon and all that stuff. Tell us a little bit about your company and how people can reach out to you.
Well, I'm available on LinkedIn. Clearly, I'm here because I've been told by a lot of people that the ideas in the book deserve to be shared. So I'm doing the job of sharing them. Yeah, I've enjoyed writing the book. It was really hard work. It was really hard work, but I really think that lean thinking is this amazing body of knowledge to make organizations more ingenious. I think that combining it with tech makes it even more powerful. But yeah, and I believe there's a lot of in our society that becomes increasingly complex. Making organizations more ingenious is probably a very good thing. So I hope I can contribute to it by convincing all your listeners to buy the book and read it.
Definitely, and we're all TPMs. A lot of us are TPMs and agents of change, and as custodians, as conduits, we look forward to amplifying this message and this mindset.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Jerome.